So let me now ask our third main speaker, Bruno Ciancio, coordinator of a master's program on interculturality, and of course, he's Italian, so he takes the floor straight away. And of course, senior manager is Policlinico Universitario of Modena, Italy. And of course, I think Bruno used to have this Australian background very useful to us.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll try and organize myself the best I can. I would like to share with you the last 20, 25 years of experience in this field, starting from Australia. So who's been to Australia can understand that I have an Australian accent, even though I've been in Italy for 20 odd years. So I'm going to divide this talk into two parts. One, educating a cultural mediator in Italy and in Europe, as well as Australia. And then I'm probably going to cause a few intestinal problems, because I'd like to discuss with you what can be or could be the alternatives to the cultural mediator in part, not actually taking the cultural mediator out, but scaling down a lot. And this comes from quite a number of years of experience and 2 experimental projects in Italy. So we'll start with that. So the first part is on the cultural mediator itself. Right? The actual education of cultural mediators and what is the tendency, principally in Italy, but also in Australia. And this education can vary according to what might be expected of the mediator and on his or her personal professional background. And we can see short courses being held from 20 to 30 hours, in particular if the mediator is already on the staff. Or medium-length courses, about 50 to 60 hours, which are quite useful. And also long courses. And in Italy now, we've come to the stage where we're organising courses between 250 to 350 hours, almost a master's program, without having yet finalised an official professional standing for these people. It's almost, if I have to say it in brutal terms, it's becoming a little bit of a political game. So the general course content themes that we can, an organizational structure that we can find, in many courses for cultural mediators are the following. It is very interesting, though, to note that these courses always have a very similar content, themes, and organizational structure, be they short courses or long courses. But actually what varies is the degree of detail within each thing presented and the presence of allied themes involved as well. The courses are basically all organized utilizing module systems, between 4 and 10 modules, and all courses have a practical element as well. Otherwise, if you don't do this, it's useless. And practical means, how on earth do you do cultural mediation? And it's amazing to understand, I work in the healthcare system, but also for the schools, that very, very few people know how to use a mediator, especially the staff. Actually, how to use a mediator properly. So what short courses are available, or why short and long courses? This depends on where you expect the person to work. If the individual is going to be primarily involved in one professional area, then a short course to medium course is often sufficient. Even more so if the person is already working within that particular field. For example, health teachers, the social workers, and so on. But if the person is going to be involved in a number of different areas and is not already part of those areas, for example, health, welfare, education, legal systems, the prisons, minors, corrections, then we have seen over the years that the short course is really not sufficient at all. Actually, it's not appropriate. You need the long organizational structure. A typical short course in Italy, in some countries in Europe, in Australia, the migrant themes covered are nearly always these. The migrant ethnicity, migrant trends in the country in general, from the national to the local levels, the norms, the legislation, the legal issues regarding migrants, also migration from theory to practice, and actually mediation, and how do you apply this in the field, the role of the mediator, the role of the staff, actually not to be underestimated. Understanding the healthcare staff, the healthcare system, or the education system, or the legal system, organisation and its services, impact of migration on the system, access to services, equity and issues. Also meeting staff and migrants mediators, and what are the main problems? That is to say, you need to have content. There's pieces everywhere. There's need to meet migrants and people who are working with migrants. And also here in a short course, you also need the practical experience, which is usually a half-day exercise. The typical medium-length course, the content, it basically covers the same things, but there's more detail. For example, introduction to the role and basic concepts of cultural cultural anthropology, the norms, legislation, legal issues regarding migrants, the psychological concepts and intercultural education issues, understanding the healthcare system or whatever system you're working in, and the impact of migration, quality, equity, communication across diversity. These are the typical arguments or themes that we've seen in nearly all the mediation courses in Italy, and not only. Revisiting your second language, official language, dialects, and this is very important in the Chinese community, where you have people coming from one area of the country that don't understand at all. People that come from another area of the country. And if you don't know this, you can be in all sorts of trouble. Italy as well, as far as that goes. Intercultural discussion with staff and mediators on strategies for managing conflict. This is also very important. And also the practical experience here between 8 and 12 hours in the medium length courses is seen to be very useful. And the main course we're actually in at the moment, and it's also though becoming a political process, that is, mediation is a job for migrants. And so I'm known as the big troublemaker in the country because actual mediation is not for migrants, and mediation can't be used as a political blackmail for votes. And at the moment, that's what's happening, even though if you ask them, they'll say no. You can ask me, I'm a counsellor as well, and that's exactly how it works. So the long courses, which are the ones that the state is funding and the regional governments are funding more than before. And here again, the themes are basically the same, but there's much more detail involved. The dynamics and flow of migrants within the country, people need to know this. Understand the specific needs of migrants and why they have these needs, the relationship building strategies and policies, impossible. Psycho-emotional complexities, the norms of legislation, the legal issues regarding migration, understanding the services available and how they can be better accessed and utilised, know how to interpret the needs of migrants and the role of diversity, supporting development, the positive bidirectional attitudes between staff and migrant clients, and handling conflict situations. We're still on the long 250 to 350 hour course. Also knowing how to interpret the cultural code of staff and migrants, clients, and facilitate these to develop good communication techniques. Also being an intercultural mediator from theory to practice, here again, knowing how to use the mediator and teaching staff how to use the mediator, and no one ever does in general. Also revisiting the second language and the official language and local dialects. Also know how to mediate across diversity, able to pinpoint shortfalls in the ability to communicate between staff and clients. Also help staff interact with clients, identify actions projects that can foster this aspect, understanding the importance of workplace security, and to pass this knowledge on to migrants. And the practical here is usually between 60 and 80 hours. These are basically the courses that are used to prepare. They were in Australia. I was involved from the 70s onwards, actually directly involved, and here as well from the end of the 80s onward in Italy, where I migrated. So I'm actually I'm a migrant to Italy. Of Italian origin, but a migrant to Italy. And so the courses seem to be always these. The detail increases, but the themes are those. But this is now 10 minutes and to cause problems, and I'd like to do this now. Is the cultural mediator the only viable alternative in a multi-ethnic Europe? I'm not advocating the abolition of the cultural mediator. It's not possible, but it is, at least at this stage, it is possible in experience and practical programs that I have. I'm talking about practice here. It's not only theory. I've actually applied this. You can cut the use of migrants by up to 60, 70, 80%. In the hospital system, in the school system. It costs more and increases quality. I'll try and show you this. I feel the best cultural mediators are the staff themselves. And this can be achieved through the process of becoming culturally competent, staff becoming culturally competent. And how is this possible? By the system becoming culturally competent, from the top down, bottom up, or from wherever you want to start. The organisation within the system should become the organisations should become culturally competent. The professions within the organisations within the system become culturally competent. And obviously the individuals involved within the whole system should become culturally competent. In this way, we set the base for staff becoming culturally competent. For example, I have worked also as a mediator, and apart from those specific areas of language, I call in the interpreter when I can't handle the rest. But 60 to 70% of communication is not actually being able to speak perfectly the other language. We all know what non-verbal communication means. We all know that you don't have to be perfect in the language you're speaking with, as long as you have the desire to be honest, open and transparent and want to make contact with the other person. The other person is looking at you through his or her eyes exactly the same as you're looking at them. And they know that you're not perfect in the language, but they actually know that you're trying your best, which is much more than an interpreter can actually do, even if they're professional. So why the cultural mediator is not a sustainable strategy? Feet on the ground, I'm an administrator, so I look at it from this point of view as well. From a professional argument and from an economic argument, the use of the mediator does not develop the staff's intercultural ability and knowledge over time. And these studies I have available if someone wants to read. Staff tends to delegate their communication responsibility to third persons, the mediator. There is less interaction and therefore less bidirectional understanding and learning. It's not just a one-way process. There develops another power base in the system, the mediators. Staff slowly lose their professional authority and status, I can see better now, within the client's family. A third, non-professional, actually fills a key role in professional interaction, that is, in health, education, and so on. And so on. So, how to proceed towards this cultural competence development? You need to have an organization or an organizational strategy, a model. I'll show you this at the end. Actually, the one we are using, I'm using in Italy. Actually, you need to make available to all staff a basic intercultural introductory course. Usually 8 hours is proved enough, and I'll show this after. Also select intercultural reference persons from those attending this basic course, and then have 1 or 2 of these placed in all the units within your work system. Offer a further specific course for the intercultural referees. We have seen here another 6-hour course is enough to do this, and organise an internal network to keep these people together. Also give on-the-job continuous education to the intercultural referee persons on the workplace during the year, and a half an hour to 1 hour a week seems to be enough, using their experience during the week as the content for the education. So these persons are reference points for the staff, not for the mediators. They give support and encourage the staff. They give ideas and advice on handling intercultural events and questions. They indicate what and where intercultural material can be found and make it available, and they know where contact persons are within the organisation and so on. This is an example of my hospital. The cost of a mediator tends to be constant over time and does not diminish very much at all. For a 500, and this is the same for a school or also a legal system. For a 400, 500 bed hospital with 10, 15% of migrants, 25 to 55% in midwifery, which is a key point, and from 8 to 10 different languages and cultures, you need to handle this in a mediation basis every week, every month, every year, and years to come. The cost is basically between 9 and 16,000 euro a month. In Italy, we are spending in my hospital between 15 and 17,000 euro a month. In outsourcing, if this was insourcing, it would cost either 15 to 20% even more. The cost is you can cut the cost by 40 to 65%, and this will improve over time as the staff become more culturally competent. And we need now to ask the question, have we got the money? And with this same money, is equity and quality guaranteed? I feel culturally competent staff is able to do this. So having culturally competent staff is the key to success and economic viability. There is more efficiency and effectiveness in staff. There is increased satisfaction in client family staff. There is less intercultural conflict. There is constant fall in the cost of mediation, and staff and migrants develop a better bidirectional understanding of each other. This is theory. It's the experience of the last 20 years. Work development strategy to achieve cultural competence. How in the hell do you do this stuff? How do you bring this about? It's not a slow process. It never is. Offer the intercultural education program to as many people as possible. In 1 year, we put 900 people through the course. Also document the linguistic and cultural capabilities of your staff. Have a compendium. Who is who in your company? Who can speak another language, understand another culture? Try, if possible, also unions permitting, to move staff around, to put them in the right place, to use their language as a work tool. Encourage the staff to use their other language as a normal work tool. It's just another asset to have another language. It's not anything particular. Use that as you work normally. Change languages depending on who you meet. The staff are supported by the intercultural reference person in their unit or area, and then both the intercultural reference person and the staff are supported by the internal intercultural work unit that each organisation should have. And specific mediators, interpreters can be called in when you can't handle the work. Actually, when you don't understand the language well, when it's above you and then it's and when it's extremely important, actually not to make a mistake, for example, in informed consent in a hospital. So the costs involved, there is less intercultural mediators needed because you can do the work yourself. I am a mediator, for example. I'm working. I am that mediator. I don't need to call in someone else. There is less mediation hours needed, of course. There is there's a fall in intercultural conflicts. The staff satisfaction improves. The correct data is collected and compiled. There is more client satisfaction and active collaboration staff. This is migrant clients. Staff's intercultural ability and knowledge increases. Staff's motivation to interface with migrants increases, and this is absolutely important. Cost saving is from 40 to 65 or more per year compared to the classical mediation method, and levels of quality and equity of services does improve. We have shown this. So therefore, benefits of having culturally competent staff capable of being their own mediators. Third persons, there are less third persons involved who are not professionals of the specific area. The staff get to learn directly from the client and vice versa while they're taking action. As time progresses, the staff learn much more about the diversity and the other person. As time progresses, the need for mediators and interpreters goes down. The staff do not actually delegate their professional responsibility. Clients have direct contact with professionals who are able to work without mediators, intermediaries. There does not develop a third power base and quality and equity. And this is just a short course. This is just a... this is just a short course, 8 hours in 2.5 days or 1 day that we offered 900 staff. Then they go back to work, and as they work, they have their cultural reference persons support them. They call in the mediators when the question is too difficult. But the costs actually went down just in one unit, the midwifery ward, from 7,000 a week to 2. Because 2 Romanian staff were moved into that area. They knew Russian as well, and that covered quite a number of people, and they just used their Romanian language as they walked around the ward doing the normal work. So we offered the content, who are migrants to the country, the normative approach to the legal system, the impact of culture and worldview on each other, the impact of migration on the service, on the specific service, is that health or legal or school, and the mediation, actually how it's done and not, and then to finalise the day, actually what have you been able to achieve up to now, and what would you like to achieve? These actually this summary becomes the project for the next 12 to 24 hours. This is the model used to develop actually what I'm saying. It's in Italian, but I'm sure you can probably read most of that. It'll be on the website. That's the conceptual model which led this cultural competence development, and this operational model, like week after week. In a multi-ethnic Europe, developing intercultural competence is not an optional. It's just not an optional. It is a necessity. I believe that there is no other viable, affordable alternative for the future. We cannot keep on going, I believe, with the cost of mediation, and not only the cost. The cost of mediation, which is quite high, also the quality and the equity of having people, the professionals who are working, able to mediate, is much more appropriate and efficient than having a third person come in. Be they champions or not, they are never the actual professional. And when I'm on the other side of the table as a migrant, I see a professional who is trying to get in contact with me. This is much more than a professional actually inviting in another person and you have the triad. It has another important impact on the other person. The other person will force themselves to try and learn. And inclusion goes through this. It doesn't go through actually handing out your responsibility to somebody else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.